If you've followed wrestling in any guise, you know there seems to be multiple ways to train people. One that always makes headlines is the hardcore, over-the-top, sometimes dangerous approach that pushes individuals to the limit and then sees how they hold up. Then when they're at their lowest, you make them do it again. It's true that it can build character and present quite the challenge to overcome, but like all sports and coaching, it's just as important to assess the person and figure out what works for them. Maybe they need a telling off. Maybe they need a hug. Maybe they need some tough love. There are some crazy tales of how certain wrestlers made their way to the top though, and that is what we're going to focus on today. I'm Simon from WhatCulture, and this is 10 times wrestlers were broken in the hard way. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 10, Batista. Batista started to find his way down in Ohio Valley Wrestling. You're only broken in the hard way there if, like Santino Marella, you sold the boogeyman. Look it up if you don't know. Prior to walking through these doors, however, and learning the basics from Afa and Hawaii, Batista tried his hand at WCW's power plant facility, where the likes of Goldberg, The Big Show, and some other guys came out of, maybe. Given this was run by a man called Dwayne Bruce, who had a reputation for enjoying making people vomit, well, you can already tell what this was like. Dave gave Bruce the thumbs down after a day, and later referred to him as a bitter troll. As an idea of what the animal went through, Dwayne would take Batista and his classmates, grab the back of their t-shirts, and effectively strangle them when they performed push-ups. You also weren't allowed water or rest. That's stupid. That kind of approach is just going to give a bad impression for wrestling, which is even worse if you're brand new to it. Thank goodness we don't see as much of this anymore. Number 9, the Masked Patriot. In the first few months of any role, it's best not to take the piss. It all comes down to experience and hierarchy, and it always makes sense to smile, nod, and be respectful. It's also a good idea to listen to their suggestions, don't go looting in fridges, and definitely don't start walking around like you own the place. That will just make everyone mad at you. Everyone. If you'd like another example, we can look at the Masked Patriot, a man to who Koko Beware delivered a harsh lesson on 80s Memphis TV. If the Patriot wasn't there to enhance Koko to begin with, he definitely was by the end, because at one point during their scrap, the Patriot took his senior opponent into the corner. Given he was a newbie, that was a nope. The miffed Koko responded with a barrage of enraged slaps, a lethal lariat, and some gruesome kicks to the back like he was trying to kill him. Echoing the jobber's lack of respect, Beware slapped him in the face as he pinned him. Part horrendous, part funny. To do this mid-match as well was surely a wake-up call for the Patriot. I imagine he never did it afterwards. Number 8, Hulk Hogan. This is probably another Hulk Hogan fib, or an apparent one, much like when he told us he was asked to play bass for Metallica. That doesn't seem to be true. But the Hulkster is always keen to tell the story that Hiro Matsuda broke his leg on day 1 of his training. According to Hulk, Matsuda was mad at having to take training that day, so to get his frustrations out, he grabbed the end of Hogan's toe and twisted it until his shin bone cracked. The reason for doing this was so Hiro could protect the business. In his mind, it was a way to underline how much respect you have to have for wrestling, and apparently the best way to do that was to break a bone. In this instance, it's probably better kayfabe is dead if this is what we need to protect the inner secrets. I don't think we need to be doing this, but what do I know? I'm an idiot. The real question once more is whether or not this is a real story, but if we give Hulk the benefit of the doubt, it's absolutely a hard entry into this crazy, crazy world. Number 7, the Public Enemy. Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge were already veterans by the time they entered WWE, not that you would have known it from their subsequent run in WCW, in which they were outclassed by the Insane Clown Posse. In the WWE though, they arrived, in the words of the future JBL, like they owned the place. This was something of a no-no because the locker room didn't like outsiders waltzing in like their poop doesn't stink. Public Enemy also made noises that they wanted to go over, which is somewhat understandable if you're a new act. The problem was, they did all this rearranging in the gorilla position, and then Rock and Grunge threw in the fact they weren't keen on being put through a table either. The Acolytes thought about it before deciding that the best course of action was to throw them around and put them through tables anyway. On top of that, we also saw some brutal chair shots to the head, and really, this was like a wrestling massacre. Public Enemy didn't last much longer after this, funnily enough. Number 6, Daniel Pewter. Daniel Pewter legitimately bested Kurt Angle on the mat on the 11th of November 2004 SmackDown. You can debate it if you want, but I think most of us agree that's what happened. Now all this was stupid to begin with, given that pewter was a skilled combat athlete and everything was being called on the fly, but it did mean the rookie had to be taught a lesson. That happened at the Royal Rumble 2005. Arriving in the number 3 slot, Pewter was then face to face with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero, who chopped the skin off his chest. These even sounded disgusting. There seemed to be a genuine frustration over a guy who walked into the company with too much ego, and one of these was so intense it made Guerrero cower, probably in terror. This served no narrative purpose whatsoever and was booked to send a message. Pewter, realizing that he tapped his own career, opted out of WWE's developmental contract offer later that year. Number 5. Mass Transit. This is still hard to talk about. One of the most infamous incidents in wrestling history, Eric Mass Transit Koulas was introduced to something else entirely when he came up against New Jack on the 23rd of November 1996. Koulas had already lied to ECW about his age and, in a further no-no, attempted to shine despite being an enhancement talent. Why anyone would ask New Jack if they could get their shit in, I don't know, but Eric went one step above and also asked for blood. The ECW man did precisely that by brutalizing Transit's forehead with a scalpel, and the act was so unreal, Koulas' family instigated legal proceedings. New Jack's promo where he said, "I don't care if the mother dies," added to all of this madness, and eventually a jury did acquit New Jack, mostly because Koulas had wingly put himself in this position. It enhanced New Jack's reputation as someone you don't want to mess with, and it's truly wonderful today that we live in a wrestling world where this will probably never happen again. Number 4. Matt Cappotelli. Bob Holly wanted to prove that Matt Cappotelli was indeed tough enough on the 3rd season of the reality TV show. So, when Cappotelli and his castmates were in the midst of an exhibition match alongside their trainers and colleagues on the 12th episode, there was some gesturing that one of the trainees get in the squared circle instead. On this day, one of the trainees was Bob Holly, and he felt that this was a sign of Matt not taking things seriously enough, so he went crazy on the man. Horrifically smacking him 3 times across the back, busting his lip and blackening his eye, fans were shocked at a glimpse of this practice becoming an on-screen reality. How this helped Cappotelli I'll never know, especially as he already had the in-ring thing down. This kind of experience was never going to shift his approach, and remembering that he died earlier this year due to brain cancer makes this story all the harder. As for Bob, he said, "I'm being rough for a reason, not because I want to be." It's another line where you can decide for yourself. Number 3. Some Wannabe. Some Wannabe is the name given to a very hard-to-watch YouTube video that sees Bob Roop try and destroy someone in order to, you guessed it, weed out those who are serious compared to those who are just trying to use wrestling as some sort of, I don't know, toy. Arriving on Championship Wrestling from Florida via promoter Eddie Graham, Roop would position these novices in a full Nelson before forcing them face first onto the canvas and pressing his knees into their upper back. The squeals this invokes are harrowing, and it's difficult to view this as anything but unnecessary through a 2018 lens. The best wrestlers today never had this kind of training and are arguably the greatest to ever lace boots. The move itself doesn't boast much visual impact either, but know that those trapped in it were known to urinate, defecate, and rupture their blood vessels in their eyes. What? Number 2. The Girls of Gaia. Gaia Girls is a window into just how intense Japanese pro wrestling training used to be. Showcasing at the time a prospective wrestler named Taguchi, a video of her journey was made to show what it took to get in the ring. And who would ever do that? Described as a lonely, rural, menial existence designed to isolate Taguchi from any semblance of normal life, the idea was simple. If you want to do this, give everything else up. Reduced to tears, told to go home and ask yes or no questions to which yes or no were not acceptable answers, Taguchi found herself in an impossible psychological and physical position. This was designed to highlight the perseverance required to withstand it all, but the line was blurred. Was this helpful or sadistic? A distressing and fascinating watch then, it catches even more attention when our trainer here, unhappy with Taguchi's drop kicks, responds with one of his own and hits her so hard it's a mystery how anyone absorbed it. Done to present a worst case scenario, thick blood oozes gruesomely from Taguchi's face as she pleads her case. It's just shocking really, and a very hard way to get into the wrestling business. Number 1. The New Japan Dojo. The New Japan Dojo system remains a profoundly intense proving ground that is structured to build humility and respect. The young lions ritually perform menial tasks, and in order to acclimatize them to the rigors of the overarching strong style, training emphasis is placed on brutal neck and back strengthening exercises. It was once even more grueling, and the stories will blow your mind. Stam Hansen claimed in his autobiography that he witnessed firsthand on several occasions a lot of young lions being tortured before live events to such an extent that they suffered internal injuries. The idea was to make sure when you moved away from it, you were indestructible. If not, you were humiliated and subjected to physical agony. It was like high school on a whole other level. There's been reports of people punching the recruits full force in the face, while fellow graduate Chris Benoit apparently delighted in returning and intensifying the punishment he had gone through back in the day. The dojo is a different beast today, as is pro wrestling. This is a good thing. Know of any other wrestlers that were broken in the hard way? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head on over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles, and follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. My name is Simon from WhatCulture, and I will talk to you again soon.